I want to tell you a story about turning your tragedy into triumph. It's a story found in the Bible that has inspired me and I hope equips you. And it's a story of Joseph. Now, in Genesis chapter 37, we read about a young boy named Joseph, and he has an amazing dream. It's actually a God dream. And he decides he's going to tell his family because that's what you do, right? You want those who you love to share it with you. And you'd think they'd be excited, but they are not. As a matter of fact, they reject him, they strip him of his clothing, they throw him into a cistern, they abandon him, and eventually sell him into slavery. Now, I don't know about you, but what would you do when something that was meant to be good is turned into a tragedy? And maybe you're asking the question in the moment, whatever you're going through, like, what is God doing? What are you up to? Now, here's what I've learned, and this is so powerful if you can get a hold of it. Joseph made the choice to believe that God is good and that he works all things together for good. And that is a choice. I love this story because even when he's sold into slavery, it says in the Bible that the Lord was with Joseph so that he prospered and he lived in the house of his Egyptian master. And you're thinking, slavery, that's not an option. But yes, in Joseph's mind, he believed, remember it's a choice, that God is good and he works all things together for good. And as a result of a tragedy, again, Potiphar, his master's wife, betrays him and he ends up in prison. And here's what we read in Genesis chapter 39, verses 20 to 21. But it says, while Joseph was there in prison, the Lord was with him. And I don't know about you, but when I find myself in situations I don't want to be, I don't know if I always feel like the Lord is really with me. I don't really feel it. And maybe I don't even experience it. I can't see it. And yet Joseph chose to believe that God was good and he works all things together for good. And so as a result of this, a long story short, you can read it in Genesis. It is a fantastic story. He ends up saving the world, literally. He has another dream. And again, maybe by this time you'd think Joseph would be bitter and say, I don't trust dreams anymore. They've never worked out for me. But he doesn't. He trusts that God is good and he works all things together for good. And through this dream, he gets a power position in Egypt and he saves really, literally the world. See, what I've learned is that each tragedy can become a stepping stone towards something greater that God has for you if you believe God is good and he works all things together for good. Finally, in the climax of the story, his brothers come back, the ones who sold him into slavery, remember them? And they're terrified when they find out because now he has the power to retaliate. But here's what he says, and it's so powerful. He says to his brothers, come close to me. And when they had done so, he said, listen, I'm your brother Joseph, the one you sold into Egypt. And I know they're thinking, oh no, this is it. But he says, now I want you to hear something. Do not be distressed and do not be angry with yourselves for selling me here. What? Why? Because it was to save lives that God sent me ahead of you. And that is so powerful. When you believe that God is good and he works all things together for good, you can have peace and purpose even in your tragedy. And that's how you turn a tragedy into a triumph. And so may you allow God to turn your tragedy into a triumph. And that is a stepping stone toward the life that God has created for you.